Good morning, everybody. Hello, how are you? We are at day 4 of our 5-day health reset, spring health reset. Why I said habit is because that's what we're talking about today, habits. As I said, this is not about food, eating less and moving more. This is about understanding why we keep making the same choices that don't serve us, and we keep repeating behaviors that don't allow us to change and to get to that next version of ourselves where we are experiencing vitality and we aren't controlled by food or addiction behaviors, whether that be alcohol, cigarettes, staying up too late, scrolling on your phone too long, really understanding what helps you be the best version of you. Why we're suffering so much mental health now, why there's so much disease in our environment and in our lives. If it's not you, it's probably a family member or, particularly parents now really struggling in pretty much every sense of the word. And going to the doctors on a daily, weekly basis is normal. And going to the chemist afterwards is normal. And it's a normal way to behave when our bodies really don't. They don't need all these interventions. They need you to be thriving, surviving in optimal health. So today is talk about habit versus addiction. And the difference between the two is that a habit is something that you do each day to make your life easier. And it's unconscious behavior, and that would be like waking up at a certain time is a habit. Going to brush your teeth. You can drive a car without thinking. You can get up, get dressed. All of these things are habitual behavior that require you to do with very, very little effort. So you've practiced and practiced and practiced, and you've created a behavior that is effortless. Now, we can do this in the same way, and we can create behaviors that are not helpful, but they are what the brain wants to do is the least amount of stuff possible. So it creates patterns of behavior that make life super easy where you don't have to think. Now, habit is something that you can change fairly easily when you put your mind to it. Say, for example, it's just a habit to get up, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, get into the car, drive to work. So if you wanted to change some habits, you would, you could change that order fairly easily. It would require you to actually think about something and change the way you drove to work, for example, like go a different way or listen to a different station, or ring somebody on the way to work. Like, it's a different behavior. You're not just doing it mindlessly. Addiction, on the other hand, is something that even when you try, you can't break the habit. The cravings, the overwhelming desire to do it is bigger than your willpower and bigger than a habit. So you might say, for example, 5 days a week, this week you want to go for a run, but you only manage 2 because the addiction to not the behavior, the addiction to not do the behavior is far greater than the behavior to do it. Same with food. We say we're not going to eat the cake, or we're not going to have the chocolate, or we're going to go 5 days without it. And then what happens is your brain goes, nope, this is not what we do. We want to do things easily, so we're going to override you and your willpower, that muscle that you have a finite amount of, and it's going to create a whole bunch of behaviors in your body that are uncomfortable. And good morning, Maria. I hope you're well. So yes, just reiterating, we are talking about habits versus behaviors, versus addictions, and when an addiction is super hard to break, and why that happens. And this is because the brain wants to do things as easily as it can, and it will create many, many, many interruption signals, and whether these sometimes are physical and emotional, is what is to be determined. And often we don't even take a moment to listen to whatever the craving signal message from the body is. And this is part of why we struggle to change behaviors, is because we don't hear what the body's saying. We don't listen. We don't allow a craving to happen. It's mostly such an uncomfortable trigger in the body. It could be a headache, it could be a stomach ache, it could be anxiousness, it could be defined by many ways, but we don't like to feel it. So the first thing we do is try and resist it for a moment, but often these are unconscious behaviors and patterns of these habits we are unaware of them. So what we do is to not feel these feelings, we go and we repeat the behavior that we were trying not to do. And then we are also very good at justifying all of the reasons we can't, couldn't, wouldn't do it that day. Whether it be, it was in the fridge, so I had to eat it. Friends came over, so I had to do it. I was so hungry. I didn't have a chance to get my normal whatever I wanted to prepare, so I just ate it. Like, our brains are magnificent at creating every excuse you could ever find. So these are the reasons we keep getting stuck in the same behavior patterns and getting frustrated. And then on the other end of that scale, what we do is we get angry at ourselves, we get frustrated, we create shame, and we create all these other behaviors that we don't want to feel as well, which exacerbates the issue. So what I want to offer you is to, when you want to make a change in your behaviors that aren't serving you, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to require effort. You are going to require to be doing behaviors that are different and uncomfortable, and that your brain is going to come up with a million excuses as to why you shouldn't do it, why we need to stay the same, why we need to be comfortable, why it's just not worth it today, why you can start it tomorrow, why you can do it next week, and on these excuses and behaviors will go, because that's what the body wants to do. That's what keeps us in addiction. As I said, the difference between a habit is a behavior that keeps you in an effortless behavior, but it's okay. It's a behavior that gets you where you've got to go, where you're not thinking, to driving, to doing the shopping, to doing the chores, to doing what just makes life easy and effortless. And addiction is something that you want to change, but you have a physical, emotional trigger that keeps you driving that same habit. So the stimuluses can be many. They can just be a smell, they can be a taste, they can be you walk past the fridge and there's the fridge calling you, and so you open it and you're like, oh, just this one time. So that's a behavior that is just what we would start off as a habit, by having things there to make life easy. But when you want to make that addiction, break that addiction, what you really want to do is set yourself up for success, so that when you do open the fridge, it's actually not in there for you. So this is what we do when we start really working in deep transformational behaviors. We set your environment up so that you're not triggered by the old ways. So it requires effort, in a sense that you are consciously behaving, and this can get tiring and it can get a bit overwhelming, but it's necessary, and that's okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's all part of your changing behavior. So again, the brain will say to you, no, it's too hard. We're overwhelmed. We're too tired. It's all too much. I can't do it. And this is what you need to be aware of too, that's where we keep getting reverting back to old behaviors. So the things that do keep us stuck are, you could come up with some obvious behaviors. You just know, because you do it because you like it, you do it because it feels good, you do it because you just have always done it, you do it because your mum did it, you do it because your kids like it, you do it. And so those ones are conscious. They're things that you can really kind of dive deep into and find out, okay, why do I do that? Well, is that something that I created? Is it something my family created? Is it a tradition? Is it what society tells me I should do? I get it. The TV is horrendous in terms of constantly marketing to you certain ways of behavior. Like if you actually watch television, you'll see that pretty much every single ad is about junk food, medication, and gambling. And that's essentially what gets repeated over and over and over again in our brain, in our psyche, and then in our unconscious. And so it's normal in society to behave like that. It's normal in society to go to work and have donuts on the table and Coke everywhere and, Mothers and V's and these drinks that do not serve you. It's normal to have cake with every time you go out for a coffee. These behaviors they make you feel loved, accepted, that you belong. And when you say no, you get a lot of questions. Like it's really rare to go somewhere and if you say no to cake, if you say no to chips and donuts and drinks, alcohol, people often make you question your choices to say no. And it's almost like a you don't belong here. You're shining a light on all of the reasons I can't do this behavior or maintain this behavior. So it's so interesting how society creates a behavior of not supporting health, but when you want to support health, it's questioned. So it's hard. We're going upstream. We're swimming upstream when it comes to creating good habits, and it takes a lot of effort to say no, particularly to family, especially parents who. That's how they show their love, is through food. It's through nurturing you through their love language is food. And if you reject their food, you're rejecting them. And you're rejecting society because, society is not set up for success. So, these are not easy habits to break. These are not easy behaviors to incorporate, but I'm telling you and letting you know that it is possible. You can get support. There are many, many ways we can create this support for you. So the other one I wanted to talk about were the unconscious behaviors. So they're all pretty easy to see, those behaviors, and why we keep doing these things. But the unconscious behaviors are the tricky ones. And they're the ones that were created when you were younger to keep yourself safe. Something may have happened when you're a child, even we can go further than that and talk about past lives, behaviors through families and generational trauma that has happened in your world. And this is where we often have no awareness about what creates us as a human, what habits we took on as a child just to keep safe. And so sometimes it can be, it can be anything that happened in your childhood that you were, say, how am I going to put this one? When something negative happened in your life, and this was a constant behavior in the family, and then your body just created a way to behave around it. It just kind of it does whatever it can do to make you feel safe and secure. And so in that moment, your body creates a behavior that is totally unconscious that then so that you can feel safe in any way. And this can be through boredom, it can be through positive emotions, it can be negative stress. So behaviors that are unconscious and we do to make us feel good, and often that is just eat, or not so much when we're younger, drink, but it just can be something little that when you have that response in your life, even as an adult, straight away you go to this behavior. And these are the things that then turn into, say, substance abuse, into gambling, into excess behavior. As I said, eating, like, we know we shouldn't be doing the behavior, but we can't stop it. And so this is like generally a deep-seated emotional trauma that happened when we were younger, and that we haven't been able to get to the root cause of this and the reason that you perform this behavior, because you don't want to feel that negative emotion, that sad emotion. It could be abandonment. It could be shame, not feeling good enough, rejection, which every human has in them. We all have these behaviors in our bodies, and to avoid feeling them, we do something. We eat, you may have wanted to cry when you were younger. You may have wanted to, retreat. You may have wanted to have a hug, but you didn't get that need met when you were younger. And so then your body has created another way to reach out, to feel safe, to feel wanted and loved. And the food can do that because it feels amazing. It tastes good. But it's often not a healthy way to address some emotional deep need that you require, that your body requires. So as we, with health coaching, we deal with that aspect as well. We allow you to see where that behavior comes from. We take you back through hypnotherapy and just guide you back into a time in your life when it's not super comfortable, and you may recreate that behavior and see where it happened and what. So what happened, where it happened, who happened around, and what, how you behaved. And then we can change that behavior into a much more positive response, and so that you're not constantly grabbing at behaviors and foods, drink, things that just don't support your health. Because we're at a point now with our health, particularly as we are in middle age, your body just can't keep sustaining these negative habit patterns. So it's really a time where you need to, I'd say, take control. But if you've tried everything, and as I said, you can eat as well as you like, and you can move, but if you're not dealing with these emotional traumas that happened to you when you were younger, if you're not aware of what's a habit and what's an addiction, and you really can't, even a way of thinking can be an addiction. Like, it can create negative spirals of thinking, or it can create positive spirals of thinking. It's okay to do this every now and then and have a moment or a couple of days where you're not feeling great, because every emotion is welcome in the body. And this is another thing we don't often allow, that behavior of feeling sad, of feeling anger, of feeling frustration, of feeling grief. If we are not allowed to feel those emotions in a accepted and loving way, and if we repress them, they'll live in the body, and then they'll create constant niggles of, hello, you haven't addressed me, hello, you haven't addressed me. And to not address them, then we create this addiction, habit, behavior that is not, it's kind of what we address our anger, grief, sadness, rage, frustration with. So if it's a bit, if you want to know more about this, get in touch. We can do a one-on-one and really go deep in and explaining what this cycle of humanness is about. As I said, our brain wants to create the easiest way possible. And if we're repressing these emotions, we're not allowing the emotions to be felt, an addiction behavior will occur as a result. So it's probably a little bit much all for this time of the morning, but habit loops are constants. We have a constant way of behaving as a human, and our brains are sometimes not our friend. So it's so interesting, and it's such a powerful way to get a hold of behaviors that aren't serving you. Understanding your emotional triggers, your physical triggers, your psychological triggers, like really understanding where they come from and why you do it. Like, if you just think about, for example, walking past a coffee shop, how many emotions that evokes. Like walking, into a dentist, for example, what emotions they evoke. Then you've got like loud rooms, and people, noises, and what emotions they evoke. When you have an awareness around why your body creates those emotions, then you can understand why you behave the way you do, to not feel those uncomfortable feelings. So just want to invite you to create changes. You've got to get used to being uncomfortable. You've got to get used to doing things a little bit differently, and have some self-awareness. And I give you so many tools when we identify the triggers as to how you can allow these behaviors to be in the body. Like, just for example, you wanting to make a change, and you're really committed to going forward now. My 21-day sugar detox is great for this, to further this, because every day I give you more strategies, more help, more support, and I put all the tools in place for you to be able to let go of an addiction. And sugar is a huge one for us, so it's a great place to start. And you don't have to use it for sugar, you can use it for anything. But I give you every day for 21 days a little bit of a tool, a little bit of a talk, support, and some, I don't want to say homework, but some, advice on what you can do in that day to help your body, brain, mind, all of it work together. So it's the easiest way you can get off whatever it is that you're wanting to let go of. But as I said, sugar for me was my biggest addiction for the longest time, even when I didn't know it was a problem, because again, we were set up for not success in early days when we were eating everything low fat, and so sugar became my addiction, which then had many, many, many negative effects on my health, my way of thinking, my brain just could not function. So, in wrapping up this session, because it's been pretty heavy, and habits and addictions are part of being a human, so don't get down on yourself or angry. It's just having awareness around them and understanding that they can be changed when you have the right support, when you're in the right environment, when you have your home and behaviors set up, to support this. So, just taking it on, being mindful, just getting yourself into a position where you go, right, yep, I've got this and I'm getting the support that I need. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve, because the brain can also work for you in a lot of great ways. It's just letting it, it's just bringing it on board, all of the parts of you coming back together, working cohesively to support you and your health. So that was behaviors, addiction, habits, and understanding why the body does what it does, why the brain does what it does, and why you keep going in that loop of not being supported by yourself, because often we're literally at war in our own brains 24/7 when we stop and think about all of the things that go on in a conversation in our head. So sometimes you just want to be the observer of these conversations and not get too involved in it. So anyway, have a great day. Tomorrow we are going deep into the food aspect, the sugar, talking about what what sugar does to the brain, why it does it, why you've got that chemical addiction versus the physical addiction, and what how good it feels to not have that going on in your body and your brain. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you for watching, and if you're catching the replay, leave me a comment and let me know what your addiction is. Let's get real and let's get honest. What is the addiction that you're really struggling to let go of? Take it easy. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.